Dear colleagues, good afternoon. I just had a conversation with the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Modi. On behalf of all of you, I have taken the liberty to congratulate our friend, the Prime Minister of India, on his 75th birthday. And on his behalf, I would like to convey my best words and wishes to the entire Russian leadership. I would like to note that throughout modern history, more precisely, since the time of the Soviet Union, and then during the time of the new Russia, relations between India and Russia have been exceptionally trusting, friendly and, of course, non-partisan. These relations are based on a national consensus in both Russia and India, as we can see. In addition, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, India is pursuing a completely independent, sovereign policy and, most importantly, is achieving very good economic results. India has the highest economic growth rates among the world's major economies. Congratulating the Prime Minister of India on his anniversary, I wished him and the entire Indian people all the best and continued success on our behalf. We have to discuss a number of issues today, and the main one is infrastructure development. Mara Shakazianovich Kusnulin will have to make a corresponding message. This refers to energy, transport, telecommunications, and social infrastructure. But first, as usual, there are a few operational issues. We recently talked about the fact that school children take exams, and the admissions process begins for both higher education institutions and colleges. Now we can talk about how this campaign went and how it ended. I would like to ask Sergei Sergeyevich Kravtsov to say a few words about the results of the college admissions campaign. As far as I know, for about 200,000, yes, more young people have been admitted to colleges this year than last year. Sergei Sergeyevich, please. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, dear colleagues, indeed, 1,100,000 students enrolled in colleges is 200,000 more last year. In fact, there are 3,900,000 college students today. This figure is comparable to the 70s in the RSFSR. For millions of students studied at technical schools and colleges, we have actually reached this indicator. This is very important to us. As for the specifics of this admission campaign, for the first time in all regions, it was possible to apply through Gosislugi. Vladimir Vladimirovich have talked about this, and 1 in 3 applicants took advantage of this right. We have increased the number of budget places by 68,000, and today there are 850,000 of them in the whole country, of which 56% are in technical and engineering specialties. The average score of college applicants is also growing 4 points, the average score of the certificate, and in some specialties 4.9. Which is actually excellent, in areas such as aircraft engine manufacturing, programming, chemical technology, and computer systems. Extremely high competition in it, medicine, and art. For example, in the college of the Krasnodar territory, the competition was 18 people per place, and in the Moscow region college Podmoskovy, 7 people per place. We are actively training personnel for the military-industrial complex. The biggest competition, 12 people per place, is radio engineering complexes and spacecraft control systems. 9 people per place is the production of aircraft engines. We are enrolling veterans of our military and their children as a matter of priority. More than 20,000 people have already used this right. Special attention was paid to the reunified regions. We have increased budget places for our historical regions by 1,500 and opened 10 clusters there in priority sectors such as construction, mechanical engineering, agriculture and pedagogy. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, dear colleagues, As I have already said, there is an increase in the number of college enrollments in the country, but there is also a growing interest in colleges. I'll give you the following data. To be honest, it's amazing for us too. An absolute record. 3.5 million applications were submitted to this admission campaign, which is 900,000 more than last year. In other words, we see a serious interest in the open source system. What is the reason for this? First of all, as the students themselves say, it became interesting to study. We have created 506 clusters of professionalism. This is modern equipment. Students already understand which enterprises and industries they will work in, and what their salary will be, and businesses themselves are investing in colleges. According to the professionalism, 8.5 billion investments are not expenses. They were investments in colleges. This is a good indicator, and we plan to double it. Secondly, the training structure itself is now based on the labor market forecasts provided by the Ministry of Labor. By the time you graduate from college, employment in your specialty will be virtually guaranteed. Since this year, new professions have been introduced under the demands of employers, such as working with artificial intelligence, ensuring the safety of air transport, a labor teacher, and resume training in prosthetic, orthopedic, and rehabilitation equipment. The third, our applicants and students not only understand their professional trajectory, but from school they are guided, among other things, by admission to colleges. Since the 6th grade, we have had a career guidance system involving about 13,500 enterprises. 8th and 9th grade students actively go to businesses as you instructed. They talked about this in Chelyabinsk and attend colleges. And the fourth reason for the popularity, in our opinion, is the championship movement. 1 million participants have already been involved in the championship movement this year. Just today, the high-tech championship in the most advanced sectors of the economy started in Veliki Novgorod, and according to tradition, the Abolympics Championship will be held for people with disabilities in late October and early November. And this summer in Kazan, we held such a championship for the first time for participants in a special military operation. The final of the Professionals Championship will be held on November 29th in St. Petersburg. What are the key tasks for the future? I'll single out 3. The first is to check the labor market forecast annually in order to adjust the recruitment and admission control figures with the forecast given by the Ministry of Labor. The second is infrastructure development. Thank you, Vladimir Vladimirovich, for supporting the renovation of colleges and dormitories. There are 517 colleges in the program, of which 77 will be renovated by the end of the year. And the third is the expansion of the number of employer partners who interact with colleges. As I said, 8.5 billion rubles have been invested, and we plan to double this amount. In conclusion, I would like to say that on October 2, our secondary vocational education system celebrates its 85th anniversary. Special events will be held, and as part of the celebration of this date, allow me, dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, to invite you to a meeting with our guys, the best college students. Thank you. Thank you very much, Valery Nikolaevich. I would like to say a few words about the results of the university admission campaign and ask you to comment on how the 10% quota works for the participants of the SVO and their children. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, dear colleagues, the university admissions campaign has generally ended. This year, 619,000 budget places have been allocated to universities at all levels of education. Most of these places, as you instructed, Vladimir Vladimirovich, about 74%, are distributed in the regions. First of all, it should be noted that for the first time this year, the online university admission super service has become a priority application channel. It now offers the opportunity to apply electronically for master's and postgraduate studies, which was not the case last year. Also this year, for the first time, the need to bring paper originals of certificates was eliminated. Consent to enrollment was submitted through the portal of public services. As a result, almost 1,300,000 people used the super service during the campaign, which is 571,000 more than in the previous year, 2024. If you look at the percentage, this is 79% of applicants. Let me remind you, at the start, in 2022, 22% used the super service. In 2024, last year, 44%. Good dynamics. Although paid admission to master's, residency, and postgraduate programs continues, it is already possible to identify some important results of the admission campaign. The first, as a result of the competition, universities have almost 100% closed the established admission figures. According to preliminary data, 904,000 graduates of schools and colleges have enrolled in universities, including more than 440,000 people in budget places and 464,000 people on paid admission. Preliminary results show that applicants are much more interested in engineering specialties. Of particular note is the increase in the number of applicants in areas related to artificial intelligence technologies. Every year we see more and more interest here. This year, 14,058 boys and girls enrolled in 161 universities. This is almost 2.5 times more than last year. Among the leaders in the average admission score this year are such specialties as high-tech plasma and power installations, navigation and ballistic support for space technology applications, dentistry, reconstruction and restoration of architectural heritage. We also note an increase in the average score for admission to the following areas: waterways, ports and hydraulic structures, aircraft testing, vocational training, agroengineering and others. The subject of close attention is admission under a separate quota for participants in a special military operation and their family members. I would like to note that this year, for the first time, applicants within the quota did not have to order certificates from military enlistment offices, military units and hospitals. Confirmation of the status was given automatically on the Unified Portal of Public Services. As part of the new quota, which this year amounted to 53,800 places, 28,700 people were enrolled. This is more than last year's intake by 12,000. It is important that students from this category receive the support and attention necessary for their successful studies from the very first steps, and we are targeting universities precisely for this kind of work. According to the established requirements, universities allocate at least 10% of budget places to a separate quota. At the same time, a quarter of all universities have set a higher quota up to 20 and even up to 30%. In general, the quota is sufficient, but in a number of leading universities, the number of applicants for the most sought-after areas exceeded the number of quota places allocated. In the current campaign, we dealt with this problem, as they say, in manual mode. For 2026, we have developed, are discussing, and will propose a system solution in the interests of applicants. We have effectively managed to attract applicants to budget places at universities in the reunified territories. At the request of the regions, 27,593 places were allocated to them, and they are completely closed. The integration of universities into a single educational space continues and is generally successful. This is evidenced, among other things, by the fact that universities for the first time in this admission campaign worked through super services and the portal of public services. I would like to add that special admission conditions have also been established for applicants from the border regions of Bryansk, Kursk and Belgorod regions. They could apply both based on the results of the unified state exam and through a single interview at the university of their choice. The budget admission plan of the universities of these regions has been completed. By the way, I would like to emphasize that we have provided additional financial support to these universities for the new academic year. Taking into account their special situation, positive changes are taking place in the target intake. Let me remind you that since 2024, customers of targeted training have been posting proposals for concluding contracts on the unified digital platform work in Russia. This year's competition for future target students took into account their participation in career guidance events organized by future employers. Under the terms of the target agreement with employers, 44,500 people are currently enrolled, which is 44.5% of the allocated target quota. Let me remind you that last year it was slightly less 38%. We record a significantly higher quota filling in medical specialties, almost 79%, and in agricultural specialties, 62.1%. The enrollment of target users continues. And finally, dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, dear colleagues, Russian higher education is increasing its attractiveness to applicants from abroad. The quota of the Russian government for the education of foreigners at the expense of the budget will be filled completely for 30,000 places. At the moment, over 80,000 applications have been submitted. In addition, more than 66,000 foreigners and compatriots have already enrolled in excess of the quota on competitive terms on a budgetary, paid basis. The reception continues. We are consistently moving towards achieving your goal of bringing the number of international students at Russian universities to 500,000 by 2030. The report is over. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. Valery Nikolaevich also mentioned the growing interest in medical specialties. This year, the budget quota for medical colleges and universities has been increased by 10,000 people. Mikhail Albertovich, how did it work? Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, dear colleagues, following your instructions, our admission control figures are increasing annually. Over the past 5 years, we have increased enrollment by 27% in specialty medical programs. 415,000 applications were submitted to higher educational institutions of the Ministry of Health, which is 20% more than in 2024. The competition averaged 15 people per place in our universities. Very high competition. They strive and want to come to our specialty. A total of 50,000 people have been accepted into specialty programs this year, and they have already started their education. Taking into account the demand of regions and citizens for narrow specialists, as we call them, these are specialists of various profiles specializing in ENT diseases, gastroenterology, cardiology, and many others. We are increasing enrollment in residency programs. Over the past 5 years, this growth has amounted to 43%. 54,000 applications have been submitted to the university residency program this year. Moreover, the competition is also growing, and this year it amounted to 3 people per place. Only people who have proven themselves not only in their studies, but also in an active social life are enrolled there. Respectively, they have established themselves as leaders during their studies. A total of 26,000 specialists have been accepted this year. Moreover, we actively involve residents during their studies to provide medical care in those areas in which they have already received some training and confirmed their knowledge. Also, dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, on your instructions, together with the regions, we have been increasing and continuing to increase enrollment in secondary specialized medical education programs. In 5 years, the number of places in medical colleges has increased by 60%, and just last year you instructed us to increase by 10%. It turned out to be 13, because the need for average medical workers is high. The competition for this direction is also high, 3 people per place. And although college admissions are still ongoing, I would like to point out that we have already enrolled 130,000 students. We are really looking forward to them. There really is a high demand for them. Training of future specialists is, of course, not the only way, but the main way to meet human resources needs. Thanks to your decisions, we are following the Zemsky Doctor. We have completed all the volumes, and 74,000 specialists have been involved during the period of implementation of this program. This year, there is also a request to increase places according to these specialists. This is also facilitated by special social benefits, which, according to your decision, are established for outpatient clinics, especially for rural healthcare. We can see that this norm is working very well today. And, of course, the support of the regions, those regions that create conditions for the provision of housing, compensation for rental costs, and mortgages. We see that issues are being resolved faster there, and positive results are visible, responding to a request from the regions and the professional educational community. The next step to increase the human resources potential of the healthcare system was a new draft law aimed at improving the quality of education and regulating the volume of training. In terms of the volume of training at the expense of the federal budget, the bill provides for a complete transition to targeted training. We are leaders in this area, in the higher medical education system, and approval by the Russian Ministry of Health for educational organizations of the number of places for admission in specific specialties of residency, based on the specific needs in the workplace. In order to prepare with maximum effect, mentoring programs are currently being implemented for young professionals in many countries around the world, and this improves the quality of training when they work under the supervision of experienced professionals. According to experts, the preparation of medical workers for a specific future workplace, the guaranteed availability of such a workplace for a student, and the supervision of a young specialist at the first stages of working with patients, as well as the management of a training system for specialized specialists based on real needs, will improve the quality of medical care and provide the industry with personnel. At the moment, this bill has been submitted by the government to the State Duma. The State Duma plans to consider it this year. Therefore, we hope for this solution. Thank you very much for your support in this extremely difficult area. I finished my report. Thank you. Mikhail Albertovich, you just said that mentoring is also being cultivated in other countries, so it's not just our practice. This is a good practice. It has really proven itself. We have implemented the pilot, and it has also shown good, successful results. To be honest, I started working under mentors and senior specialists myself, and I am grateful to them. To this day, many of them are still working, some are already retired, but I always call them. These are the people who, in fact, led you by the hand into a specialty. Yes, but is this also developing in other countries? Yes, this is our immediate environment, and many developed countries are actively using it today. This is a good practice. Thank you very much. We have held competitions to create a comfortable urban environment. This year, 25 billion rubles are allocated for these programs. Irik Imvarovich, how was this job? Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, indeed, one of the main tools for improving the quality of the environment for our citizens is the federal project creating a comfortable urban environment. The project consists of two areas: program activities and grants within the framework of the competitive selection of projects that you just mentioned. During the implementation of the program, 77,000 territories have already been landscaped in the country, of which 42,000 are domestic and 35,000 are public. Landscaped spaces have become a part of the daily lives of almost 130 million Russians. The main result is that people see changes. The program remains one of the most recognizable among our citizens. According to the results of last year's survey, 90% of our country's residents highly appreciated the new playgrounds, sports grounds, parks, squares and embankments. At the same time, it is very important that every year the number of citizens who are ready to take part in the improvement of their cities and villages increases. In general, the program is designed specifically for small towns. Russia is a country of small towns. People go out on clean-up days, discuss design projects and filling spaces with municipalities. In general, within the framework of the federal project, it is the choice and participation of people that have become a priority. This year, the fifth all-Russian vote was held. Almost 17 million people cast their vote, and this is 1 in 8 residents of our country over the age of 14. I would like to thank the United Russia Party for its contribution to the organization of the vote, constant attention to the program, and the involvement of citizens in the implementation of the national project Infrastructure for Life. A large-scale element of the federal project is the all-Russian competition for the selection of landscaping projects. As part of the execution of your instructions, Mr. Putin, the financing of the competition has been increased fivefold to 25 billion rubles and extended until 2030. The Far East received a separate competition. Also, since this year, the government has expanded the opportunities for participation in the competition for regions, and cities with a population of up to 300,000 are now allowed here. Villages and towns that are strongholds are included. Changing the program parameters allowed the administrative centers of the regions to participate. For example, for the first time, an application was submitted from the city of Tambov. The participant and the winner of the competition was the renovation project of the coastal territory of the Studenets River, which will be timed to coincide with the anniversary of the city. Taking into account all the changes, the geography of the competition has almost doubled this year. All regions are included in the competition, from Kaliningrad to Kamchatka. This year, the 10th All-Russian and 4th competitions of the Far Eastern regions were held. 294 projects became winners. Since the beginning of the program implementation, 924 settlements of the country have become winners. 1,609 projects have been selected, including 679 parks, 301 embankments, 262 squares, 367 streets and pedestrian zones. 934 projects have already been implemented, including in 833 stronghold settlements. 27,000 jobs have been created. 6,000 commercial real estate objects have appeared. The total area of landscaping according to competitions, projects alone, amounted to 75 million square meters. Moreover, every square meter of this territory is carefully thought out and has a clear functional purpose. There are spaces that embody the patriotism of our people and pride in our country. For example, a park dedicated to the 650th anniversary of the city is being built in Kirov. Many landscaping facilities have been prepared for the 80th anniversary of the Great Victory. For example, 19 memorable places have appeared in the Bryansk region. I have just visited the village of Zhirinichi. There is a memorial dedicated to the victory and a park of partisan glory. In the city of Starodub, the 40 Years of Victory Park was reconstructed by competition. Parks dedicated to a special military operation are also appearing. In honor of its participants and heroes, a park is being created in Melitopol, Zaporizhia region, which was won by competition. A park has been landscaped in Sversk, Irkutsk region, and a memorial to the fallen participants of a special military operation has been erected in the city of Kayakta, Republic of Buryatia. This is the third time that the reunified regions have participated in the competition. A total of 80 applications were submitted, 34 projects won, and 15 of them this year. As of today, 3 parks have already been completed in the new regions. Lugansk People's Republic is a park of labor glory in Stakhanov, and a park named after the Young Guard in Krasnodar in Primorsk, Zaporozhye region. The Yubileyny Park has been landscaped. During the meeting, participants of the All-Russian Forum for the Development of Small Towns and Historical Settlements suggested that Prime Minister Mikhail Vladimirovich Mishustin single out the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics, the Zaporizhia and Kherson regions in a separate nomination, just as it was done in the Far East. We are currently working on this issue, the youth staff, and this is the second year that the youth staff of the Forum has been here proposed to implement a project for an interactive map of heroes. It is encouraging to see the sincere involvement of the younger generation in the issues of historical memory. The federal project has reached a new level. The competition allows for the development of not only well-known and popular tourist destinations, such as Kalana and Suzdal, but also ensured the revival of small towns, such as Sisat in the Sverdlovsk region and Rybinsk in the Yaroslavl region. For example, in Rybinsk, the tourist flow has been increased tenfold since 2018, which was made possible, among other things, by the implementation of the large competitive project Cheremukha River Boulevard. Today, landscaping issues are considered as a strategic tool for the development of the entire region, and the overall synergetic effect is achieved due to the fact that synchronization is taking place with all mechanisms within the framework of the National Project Infrastructure for Life. Vladimir Vladimirovich, in general, the key to success is the tremendous work of regional teams, municipalities, designers, contractors, business representatives and, most importantly, residents. We will continue to work in this mode for the benefit of our citizens. The report is completed. Thanks for your attention. Thank you, Irikin Varovich. Of course, there is no need to prevent people from working within the framework of these programs. The initiative comes from citizens there, and this is very good. But control over how these 25 billion rubles are spent should still be established. Therefore, I ask you to carefully monitor this and do everything to ensure that we achieve maximum results in the course of this work together with the regions and with the citizens. Thank you. Mikhail Mikhailovich, I know that the People's Front has completed its work with citizens' appeals to the results of the year program, the so-called direct line. What could you say about the results of this work? Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, on your instructions, we are monitoring the processing of 2,600,000 appeals that have been received by your authorities and state corporations. This year, we are grateful to SPA, which allowed us to use its artificial intelligence to process massive amounts of data. We call citizens whose appeals are eventually marked as resolved by the authorities. Now 46% of such citizens confirm that they are satisfied with the answers and solutions provided to them. This is 5% more than last year. Our dynamics are positive. The best regions are Tula, Kemerovo, Chelyabinsk and Rostov regions, Dagestan, Bryansk, Ivanovo, Yaroslavl regions, Kalmykia and Buryatia need to step up their work. Of the federal agencies, the Ministry of Regional Development, the Federal Bailiff Service, the Social Fund, and the Ministry of Culture work best, and we need to pay attention to the Central Bank, the Ministry of Finance, and the Tax Service. Of the companies, I must say, thank you to Russian Post, Aeroflot, V2B, Dom.rf, Rossetti. They treated every request as carefully as possible. What are the citizens most concerned about? The first is the treatment of wounded soldiers of a special military operation and their family members. The relatives of the participants in the special operation note that one free trip to the hospital to a wounded soldier who is undergoing months of treatment in another region is not enough. When they arrive at the hospital, his relatives help him and his roommates. We suggest that the government consider providing additional trips to family members to the treatment site if the fighter has been there for more than 6 months for treatment. There are such cases. or recommend that the regions find an opportunity for such relatives to stay, free of charge, so that they do not travel from other regions at their own expense. There is also a need for staff in hospitals to provide sanitary and hygienic services to soldiers. We see the willingness of a large number of non-profit organizations and volunteers to provide services. For example, hairdressers are ready to go to the hospital and cut the hair of the children for free. We suggest that the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Health work out the organization of such sanitary services with the involvement of accredited non-profit organizations. The second is the appeal of disabled people regarding technical means of rehabilitation. There is still a problem with crediting funds to an electronic certificate. It sometimes takes 2 to 3 months. This is especially true for TS, technical rehabilitation equipment of daily use. These include diapers and diapers. We suggest setting a deadline for crediting funds, and then, it seems to me, the problem will go away. People will understand exactly when they will receive funds for an electronic certificate. There are also complaints that the amount of the electronic certificate does not cover the entire cost of prosthetics, and people have to pay extra. We are in dialogue with the Ministry of Labour about this. They have this amount. The cost is determined by the price of their wholesale purchase, and the retail sometimes differs. We suggest adjusting the exact procedure for determining this price, and then there is a feeling the problem will go away. We also record a large number of requests. There was a problem with obtaining a CP in the Kherson region. There, the electronic procedure for purchasing electronic certificates is difficult. You can pay additional attention to it from the government of the Kherson region and the Ministry of Labour, and it will go away. The treatment of patients with complex diseases. Mikhail Albertovich Murashko and I also discussed this. There are parents of children with type I diabetes. They often ask, especially if children are hospitalized in non-core units. For example, a child with type 1 diabetes has been admitted to traumatology. They need to inject insulin. Parents really ask to be given the opportunity to be hospitalized as well. The Ministry of Health does this for up to 6 years, and for over 6 years, if possible, on the decision of the chief physician. It is clear that there are certain restrictions on the bed fund, but if it could be recommended to treat such mothers as carefully as possible, I think it would be important for people to provide for the possibility of such accommodation. Vladimir Vladimirovich, there is a large number of appeals from cancer patients from remote villages and towns. At the examination stage, they go to the cancer clinic. They often go several times a week. It is difficult for them physically and financially. Maybe we should look at the possibility of regions allocating rooms for non-resident citizens, with the possibility of undergoing an examination within a few days. This was the experience during the Soviet years. Boarding houses provided patients with the opportunity to stay, because CT scans and other studies could not be done in one day, and they had to return home or rent a hotel. We have appeals from parents of students related to the fact that according to regulations, when there is no paved road, the school bus cannot run. There are rural roads that will only be paved in the future. Often, delivery companies carry their employees, but we cannot carry children according to the standard. If we do this, I'm sure we can find some kind of solution, so that the kids can be transported and, accordingly, such routes can be laid. There is a problem. We discussed it with the Ministry of Education and Sergei Sergeyevich Kravtsov. Citizens complain about the restriction of access to outdoor sports facilities. It is clear that this also applies to schools. Wonderful stadiums are being built in large numbers, and they are often closed because there is no possibility of external access to them. It is clear that there are security issues there. They are very serious. Sergei Sergeyevich said that he is working on this with the State Council Commission, especially for those areas where there is no alternative sports infrastructure. People are asking for the opportunity to use it. It's definitely possible to find some kind of solution. Here, a safe city. Cameras in order to help people. Appeals from large families. Vladimir Vladimirovich, you pay a lot of attention to family centricity. We still have the problem of obtaining certificates for large families with different residence permits from different regions. I know that there have been recommendations from the Ministry of Labour to the regions, but again these questions have been sent to your direct line, and the problem continues. Maybe we need to take a proactive position. We have the Ministry of Finance, Goslužby. It would be possible to issue these certificates and no longer collect so many documents from different regions of the Federation. Dear Mr. Putin, you recently gave instructions to expand the Far Eastern and Arctic mortgage program in the Far East, and we've had a lot of requests on this topic that banks are starting to set higher requirements for obtaining Arctic loans. For example, sometimes the amount of the initial payment is raised to 50%. It is very important. We would like to draw the attention of the central bank and the government that when expanding the Arctic mortgage, there are no additional restrictions. And one last thing, Vladimir Vladimirovich, we always look at those unfinished buildings that go from year to year. People are contacting your direct line. We have the long-suffering FOC, a city of Sharia, Kostromar region, the Shakhtar Palace of Culture in Nelidovo, Tver, and the Regional Clinical Hospital in Oriel. Last year, we received requests and gave instructions. We would like to recommend that the regions mobilize and complete them, because people regularly look forward to these sports facilities from year to year. Mr. Putin, we are cooperating with the government and the regions. We are passing on all these problems, and we will continue to carry out this work. Thank you very much. I finished my report.
В целом хотел бы сказать, что этот проект, он
Recommendations to the regions are good, but apparently they need help. We need to work with our colleagues separately. In general, I would like to say that this project Direct Line has been implemented by us for several years, but it does not lose its relevance and importance. This is not just such a large-scale sociological survey. It is massive and very useful, of course. It's not just that. The fact is that this is live feedback from people, and it helps to identify the most pressing problems at a given time and respond appropriately to these people's requests. Everything must be done to ensure that this work is as unclassified as possible and carried out live, as the Popular Front has been doing in recent years, so that all people's requests, no matter how many, are in the works. We have been doing this for many months, almost a whole year. I would ask you to continue building this work in this way. Taking into account the relevance of this project, I ask both the President's administration and colleagues from the government of the Russian Federation to prepare for the next Direct Line. I think that no one will argue with the fact that such work is useful, in demand and timely. I really count on your help and support. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the main question. Mara Shakazyanovich, please, I ask you about the development of infrastructure. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, pursuant to your decree, which defines national goals and provides priorities for sustainable economic and social growth, the government has approved a strategy for spatial development of the Russian Federation until 2030 with a forecast until 2036. The strategy is designed to maximize the involvement of the country's space in achieving national goals, taking into account the need for effective use of available budgetary and extra-budgetary resources. Their concentration on achieving the priority of spatial development, ensuring maximum utilization of existing infrastructure facilities and the creation of a new one. The strategy defines priorities. They take into account the reunified regions, the development of the Far East, the Arctic zone, including the Northern Sea route and its infrastructure, the reorientation of passenger and cargo traffic to the East and Asia, increasing population mobility, transport connectivity and the development of tourism. The strategy pays special attention to the development of agglomerations and anchor settlements. The key tool for implementing the strategy is the comprehensive plan for the development of transport, energy, telecommunications, social and other infrastructure for the period up to 2036, approved by the government on your behalf. It forms a balanced system for the creation of facilities that takes into account the needs of the regions and their residents, as well as the priorities of socio-economic development and the key objectives of the National Project Infrastructure for Life. In addition, the implementation of the plan is linked to the achievement of a number of national goals. The plan will become one of the main mechanisms for improving the quality of the environment for life in the main settlements. For its formation, the territorial planning scheme of the Russian Federation in the fields of energy, transport, pipeline transport, higher education, and healthcare, developed using a single digital cartographic framework, was used. The comprehensive document includes about 300 of the most ambitious and strategically important infrastructure projects envisaged by industry and federal strategies and national projects. The plan covers a wide range of facilities that directly affect the quality of life of our citizens. Transport facilities include more than 4,000 kilometers of railways, 60 airports, 18 seaports, and the construction of more than 2,200 kilometers of highways. Just the other day, at Mikhail Vladimirovich Mishustin's strategic session, we reviewed the high-speed traffic development plan, which is also immersed in this general plan. The Ministry of Transport, Russian Railways, and our large transport companies are responsible in this regard. The construction of gas pipelines and the creation of energy infrastructure are also taken into account. These are nuclear, condensing, thermal, solar power plants, wind farms, and ultra-high voltage power transmission lines. Altogether, they provide almost 20,000 megawatts of new capacity, which is very important for the further development of the country, especially for the Far East. This part of the plan is handled by the Ministry of Energy together with Rossetti, Rushydro and, of course, Gazprom. The plan also provides for 28 higher education campuses, of which 13 are already under construction. You are well aware of this program, Vladimir Vladimirovich. Every region is constantly being applied. An increasing number of campuses are being added, and they are also taking into account the general education system. This work is coordinated by the Ministry of Defense. High-tech healthcare facilities are accounted for by almost 16,000 places, about 20,000 kilometers of backbone fiber optic communication lines. This is coordinated by the Ministry of Finance and our large companies. Financial support for the creation of infrastructure facilities is provided within the framework of the approved 5-year construction program and the 6-year road activity plan. I want to say a special thank you for this. We've been understanding everything we're going to build for 5 to 6 years, and all these facilities are accounted for there. All these facilities are currently supported by financing. All this has been agreed with the Ministry of Finance, and we are implementing this as a living mechanism. These are both facilities under construction and those planned for construction in the coming years. The document will be regularly updated based on the current needs of the country's residents, priorities for the socio-economic development of the regions, development programs for support settlements, and approved infrastructure construction programs at the federal and regional levels. The next stage of this plan is the approval of comprehensive infrastructure development programs at the regional level. The relevant instruction on their development and approval, taking into account the priority development of the main settlements, was given to the heads of the subjects. Together with the administration, we are actively engaged in this. A number of regions have already drawn up detailed implementation plans for all strongholds, which take into account federal, regional, and municipal facilities, including landscaping facilities, as the Minister of Construction and Housing and Communal Services has just said. The Ministry of Construction has signed memoranda with all regions on improving the quality of the environment for life in the main settlements. The development of relevant development programs is being finalized. We should rise by 30% by 2030. This is not an easy, complex task, but we are seriously engaged in it. The facilities included in the comprehensive plan and the regional programs being developed will necessarily be reflected in the master plans for the development of agglomerations and anchor settlements. Monitoring and updating of documents, mapping of objects from the project to the commissioning of the facility will be provided using a single electronic cartographic framework in the National Spatial Data System. The use of information systems will allow residents of the country to know about the measures implemented by the government and the regions for the construction of infrastructure, increase mobility, and increase the investment attractiveness of the regions. The implementation of the comprehensive plan and regional plans will be regularly reviewed with the governors and responsible executive authorities at the federal level, meetings of the headquarters of the Government Commission for Regional Development. This document has been agreed with all colleagues. We, together with the Deputy Prime Ministers, with all the supervisors, each in his own block, control it. The Ministry of Energy is at the core of this project. The implementation of this document will allow us to synchronize all federal and regional programs and will have a synergistic effect by concentrating efforts to create a comfortable and safe environment for the lives of our citizens. Vladimir Vladimirovich, thank you very much for this assignment. I hope that all the tasks set, everything that is planned in the plan, will be completed. The report is finished. Thanks for your attention. Good. Thank you, Marar Shakazyanovich. Do you have any questions for Marar Shakazyanovich? Maybe there are some ideas, suggestions, or something that we didn't have time to tell each other during the preliminary work on the plan. No. Great. Thank you. I would like to thank all the colleagues who worked on this document and express the hope that it will be implemented properly. Thank you very much. I want to address Alexander Valentinovich Novak. Alexander Valentinovich, we were just talking before this meeting, and I have one more question. Are you at your place right now? Yes. Mr. Putin, we are here. Then I'll call you now, right after the meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Goodbye. Good luck.